All right, let's see if I can let's see if I can gather these right. We've been talking about these two kingdoms, the Persian and the Grecian, and we kind of pointed out that both the Rome had a little horn, the creature that represented Rome had a little horn, and also we find one that comes out of the four groups that were formed in the Grecian Empire after Alexander the Great. And again, just kind of refreshing, Lysimachus, the general took Thrace, and Seleucus took Syria and that part of Babylon and that part of the territory. Cassander, he took Greece, and then Ptolemy, he took Egypt, and they both, Seleucus and Ptolemy, they both fought over the Palestine or over Israel during their reign. It was back and forth. And then finally, Seleucus, he gained control of Palestine. And that is what we were talking about, this little horn that comes up out of the Grecian Empire, of the Seleucus dynasty. Verse 11 and 12. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the day's sacrifices were taken away, and the place of the sanctuary was cast down. And a host was given him against the day's sacrifices by reason of transgression, and cast down the truth to the ground, and practiced and prospered. Prophecy sometimes has a dual meaning. And it certainly applies to Antiochus Epiphanes in this, but it's certainly reaching ahead too. We know that for a fact because Jesus talked about it himself. At first, Antiochus Epiphanes took over Palestine and everything, and after he had gone into Egypt and Rome had met him there, and he turned back, giving him an ultimatum. They said, unless you turn back, if you come into Egypt, we're going to take Egypt's part. And so he knew that he couldn't defeat Rome and Egypt, so he turned back into Palestine, and then he decided he'd make Israel a buffer zone between him and Egypt and the Romans. And so the first thing that he did was that he displaced the priest there and sold the priesthood. And actually sold it to a guy who was Menelaus, who was not even a Levite. He was out of the tribe of Benjamin. So that began the first corruption that he started. Then in order to speed up the process, he started to force people to worship Zeus, which was the Greek god. And then secondly, he stopped the temple sacrifices, and he also put up an image there of himself and claimed it was Zeus, claimed he was Zeus. Remember that Epiphanes means God manifest. That was the name that he gave himself. They thought he was God. Thirdly, he collected all of the Jewish scriptures, the Torah and the Tanakh, which was all three categories of Jewish scriptures, and he began to have those burned. And he issued a proclamation that all of the Jewish scriptures had to be burned. Anybody that didn't burn them, death was the result. Would be the result. And just to give you, I know that Maccabees is not in our Bible, that's not it, but first Maccabees kind of gives us an indication of what was going on, the kind of historical thing, gives us an indication of what was going on under the reign of Antiochus. Now, we're not really focusing on him except to say that when we're looking at him, we're thinking about a future individual that will come into play. This is from Maccabees. chapter 1, verse 41 to 58. It says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to the whole kingdom that all should be one people. That's what he wanted. He wanted all of them with a Grecian worship and all of that. And everyone should lead his laws. That's the laws of God. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and the festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and the holy people, set up altars and groves and chapters of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end that they might forget the law, that's God's law, and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. In the same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, every one that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for safety. Now the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 140th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and built idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire. And whosoever was found with any of the book of the covenant or the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death. Thus did they, by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the cities. Now the 5th and 20th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God, in which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised, and they hung the infants by their necks, and rifled the houses and slew them that had circumcised them. So that's kind of just historical information. They showed up at a priest of the family of what would come to be known as the Maccabees. They showed up at this priest's house during this period of time, telling him and demanding that he burn any scroll or any part of the law that he had. Antiochus had sent a representative to his house. Well, he killed him. He killed Antiochus' representative, and then he and his sons fled into the mountains. Well, it wasn't long till a lot of Jewish people flocked to him, and they had him an army. And so that they began to fight. 164 BC, they took the kingdom back, and they set up they cleansed the temple, and that's where we have now the Hanukkah holiday is the eighth shafted menorah to represent that period of time when they cleansed the temple. verse 13 said, we're going to get into something here now. Then I heard one saint speaking to another saint, saying unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation? To give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. But now we got a number that's inserted into this. Here's these guys, these angels talking. One saying, how long is this going to take place? Until the end of it. The answer was 2,300 days. Anybody know how that works out? Anybody? 2,300 days.
About a year and a half.
Well, actually, it depends on how you're looking at it. But Caldwell, what's his first name? That comes to our Sunday school class. Caldwell. Lloyd.
Oh, Lloyd.
Yeah. Lloyd asked me about it after church last week, and I told him, I said, we're going. That's where we'll be next week. So I didn't give him an answer, or I didn't try and address it then, but that's what we're going to look at today. Possibilities. 2,300 days. How long is this vision going to be until this abomination of desolation is over? And we have that 2,300 days. First of all, there are those that point out that the word for day here is boker. B-O-Q-E-R. I may not be pronouncing it right, but anyway, and it means literally evening and morning. Now some have said, well, because the word means evening and morning, that makes this equate to 1,150 days. 2,300 evenings and mornings would only be 1,150 days. So what they say is, if you look at it like that, that's 3 years, 2 months, and 10 days. And they say that seems to be telling us that possibly, now this is just conjecture, I guess is the best way to say it. But they say that possibly that may be telling us how long that the abomination during the 7 years, when at the middle of the week, middle of that 7 years, that the Antichrist sets up himself as his idol in the temple, and the abomination takes place. It may be telling us how long that will last. Possibility. I mean, just a possibility. If you look at it like that. Any questions or comments there? Okay. And of course, I addressed that. We know that sometimes there's going to, at some point, that there's going to be another man that's going to come up, that's going to be the man of sin at the end time. And I'm going to point out toward the end of this how that we're even told that some of this stuff applies to the end, not just to Antiochus Epiphanes. Some of it applies to the end time. And remember where it's coming from. It's coming from one of those 4 kingdoms, that those 4 generals that took, that at least this horn, this little horn, it's coming from one of those 4 places, and Antiochus actually come out of the Seleucid dynasty. So, a raised question. Now, William Miller of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, he understood that the 2,300 in 2,300 days actually meant years. So he calculated from a certain time during the reign of Antiochus Epiphanes, he calculated and he figured that Christ would come in 1884. You know what's a strange thing? If you get up and you start following that out, is they still claim that he come in 1884.
Really?
And he did
Where'd he go? You mean the Seventh-day Adventists still claim that?
Yeah, if you look up, if you'll go on the internet and you'll look it up, there's still that. What happened was, when he didn't come in 1884, they said, okay, it was a spiritual thing.
Huh?
And that after the 1884 began the days of judgment, and so then it gets even more confusing from then on, So, but anyway, that's what I mean, it's still out there. I was surprised. It's still out there, 1884. Well, I thought that when Jesus come back, he was going to set up a kingdom and there would be peace, and that the viper wouldn't, a kid could play with a poisonous snake, or a lion lay down with a lamb, or we'd get along, or whatever, but it hadn't happened. So, that's just one opinion.
Raymond, Judy worked for a doctor that was Seventh-day Adventist, a very good out Seventh-day Adventist. They were sad about it. But he never would talk about the rapture of the church. He talked about the tribulation, but never Jesus or the rapture of the church. It was like, but now I see why. They think he's already, whatever.
Well, I think that see, the things it didn't fall out like Miller thought it was going to, and so they wrestle now with the, and it's got confusing because people have said, well, it was instead of it coming to reality, it just come in spirit, and it's caused some other things to take place and so forth. And at one point I just blocked it, because.
It's probably written by the author of Confusion.
Right. But anyway, that's one thing. Now, 2,300 days is equal to 6 years, 140 days. We're using the biblical months, the biblical year of 360 days. Because everything else in the Bible works out, we're using that. So that's what, 6 years and 140 days. Now, Walter, he's a prophecy teacher, and one of his, here's what he said, and I get this from the floor, I forgot his name. Anyway, here's what he says about innumerable explanations have been attempted to make the 2,300 days coincide with the history of Antiochus Epiphanes. And then he says, the terminus finishing point of the 2,300 days is taken by most expositors as 164 BC. That's when Antiochus Epiphanes died, and there's different reports. That's when he was defeated. That's when the Maccabees took it over the Temple Mount, claimed the temple and all of it. In 164 BC, he says he died in a military campaign in Media. There are reports that he went insane. So but we do know the Maccabees took over there. And he goes on to say, figuring from this date back to 2,300 days, would fix the beginning time at 161 BC. 161 BC to 164 BC would give you that 6 years and odd days. In the year of Nisus the third, the legitimate high priest was murdered, and the pseudo-line priest assumed power. What he's saying here is that they are taken from the day that Antiochus died and stepped back, and it comes out that when the legitimate high priest was murdered. This would give an adequate fulfillment of these 2,300 days as applied to Antiochus Epiphanes, if that's what it's talking about. And then Remington, this is the guy I was trying to remember, he was a professor at Liberty University, and he's the one that I got this from one of his writers. But anyway, he says that this apparently would be from September the 16th, when the high priest was murdered, 171 BC, and it ended on December the 25th, Christmas Day, 164 BC. And so that's the reason we have Hanukkah on December the 25th. But it accounts for the 2,300 days. I don't know. I can't really say. I can't really say if it would take the mornings and the evenings of the word 1150, and we apply it to the end time. I don't know. I got a big question mark, there. And I don't know whether this is something. But there's a lot of Bible scholars that accept this explanation. So what I have to say here is I don't know. I don't know what that 2,300 days are. But it would seem to be that he's telling, that these guys are telling Daniel, when this happens, it's going to last for 2,300 days, and it does work out, in the reign of Antiochus Epiphanes, if you look at it like this. Okay. Any comments? Any questions? Any corrections?
No.
All right. Now, of course, when the Maccabees took you know the reason for the 8-shafted, the 9-shafted menorah, don't you? Is that when they were going to cleanse the temple, they only had enough oil for one day. And it lasted 8 days. And that's the miracle of the Hanukkah, So, anyway. Let's look at it again. And by the way, I got something else that's kind of added into this. Ways you can look at this 2,300 days, different ways that people have looked at it. 2,300 days start at the killing of the high priest. How do you say that? Nice? The third. Till the death of Antiochus, which was 640, which we just got through going through. That's one way you can look at it. And then another way was the 2,300 days actually means 1,150 days because of the meaning of the word morning and evening, or evenings and morning. Therefore, the period under consideration is 3 years and 70 days, and that would, if you were applying it to the days of tribulation, it would fit in there. Then there's another 2,300 that actually, 2,300 actually means years, and looks forward to a future event based on starting at the 171, which would end up in the 21st century. You know, so somebody's looked at it like that. So it would mean that somewhere around 2129 would be when the Lord would come back, or whatever it would end. You know, it's just opinions. They don't know either. I feel like I'm in good company because they don't know either. You know? All right. Verse 15, and it came to pass when even I, Daniel, had seen the visions and saw it for the meeting, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of the Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end of the vision, the time of the end of this vision that you're being shown. Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground. But he touched me and set me upright. Pay attention. And he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation, for at the time appointed the end shall be. We got all of these mentioning these words in here that are telling us that this is going to be not just for this period of time that we're describing, but for the end. Right? Everybody see that? Okay. We got an appearance of somebody shows up with it, looks kind of like a man. But we're told it's the angel Gabriel. Did you know this is the first time that Gabriel's mentioned in the Word of God? First time he's mentioned, actually mentioned again in the book of Daniel in chapter 9, I think it is. But this is the first time we find Gabriel mentioned in the Bible. And we have a voice. Know from Scripture that Gabriel has access to the throne of God, and the voice commands Gabriel to make known the vision. This voice has to be the Lord telling him, tell him what this is all about. And I don't know, you got to kind of use your imagination, but can you think about yourself being in Daniel's shoes when he's seeing all of this stuff, you know, and wondering what in the world is going on? It says that he goes to sleep, and wake up, boy, pay attention, you know. You gotta kind of understand it. Gabriel means a warrior of God. We find that to be true in the Word of God when we see it later. And the time of this revelation is somewhere around 551 BC, which is over 300 years before Antiochus Epiphanes ever comes to power. I would tell you another story right now. It was a prophecy that took place right after the kingdoms of Judah, Israel, the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes of Israel took place right after that. A prophet gave a prophecy, and I would tell you the story, but it spans over 325 years. And I don't think you got time for it. But anyway, to make a long story short, the prophet comes to Jeroboam and told him that there would be a guy later, because Jeroboam had built an altar in Israel and told everybody, we're going to worship here, we're not going to Jerusalem where God's name is. We're going to worship here. And he built an altar and they were doing their own sacrifices and all of this. The prophet shows up and tells him that there's going to be a man that will come and he will burn the bones of the prophets that you appointed on this altar. You know. And he said, and as a sign, he said, the altar will split. Jeroboam pointed his hand out to his guys to tell him to seize him, and when he did, his Bible says his arm shrank, and he couldn't withdraw it back. And he asked the prophet to pray for him, and the prophet prayed for him, and his arm was restored, and the altar split, and the ashes fell down. The thing about that prophecy was that that old prophet called the name of the guy that 325 years later would show up to destroy all of that. Josiah. He said, and his name shall be Josiah. 325 years later, Josiah shows up at that scene. He takes there's a graveyard there. He takes the bones of every prophet that has died that was serving that altar, and he puts their bones on the altar, and he burns their bones, and then he destroys the altar. 325 years after the old prophet said that God done that. And we have a prophecy here that Daniel is seeing here. God's showing him that's 300 years before Antiochus ever shows up. If there's anything that it shows how accurate God's word is. Yeah. Okay, God bless you this morning.
Thank you, Raymond.